Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Masterclass. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. It's a pleasure to be here to talk a little bit about TradeStation. Today's topic is about ATR and how we can use ATR, which stands for Average True Range, as a measure of volatility. So that's just an idea that we're going to talk about today. We're going to explain some of the basic concepts about ATR and how you can use it probably in radar screen and scanner to look for some trading opportunities. So before we get started, here's the usual disclosures. Peter, are you able to hear me? I'm getting a sound message here. Okay, perfect, excellent. All right, just I got scared for a moment. I thought I hadn't turned on my microphone. So any symbol and idea that I talk about in this presentation is for educational purposes only. It is not a recommendation of TradeStation. Also, make sure that active trading or be aware that active trading is not suitable for everyone, and it should only be done with risk capital. Past historical performance is no guarantee of future results, and we all need to be aware of this. If you need additional information on these disclosures, you can go to the link that's right there on the PowerPoint, www.tradestation.com/important-information. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this. This is a topic that we've talked about before, but it's always nice to talk about them again from a different perspective. Maybe it triggers your ideas a little bit differently. So you start thinking about, things that you want to do on your own TradeStation. Let's go over here and move over to the TradeStation platform. And let's go ahead and set the stage up. I'm going to start up with a chart analysis window. All right, and let's pull up something that we are all familiar with. This is an Apple chart. Okay, let me compress the chart a little bit, and I'm going to first of all use the standard ATR indicator that comes supplied with TradeStation. All right, so let me go here to Studies, Add Studies. All right. On this list is going to be listed as average true range, nothing fancy. This is probably something that you use every single day. Maybe not. How many people use average true range here? Average true range is a cool indicator because it tells you an average how much does the security move up and down, right? Let me go ahead and change the style of this indicator a little bit so that it's a little bit thicker. Okay, so right now, I do have a chart here of Apple. I said that on a daily time frame. So we have daily candles, and I've just added the average true range study that comes supplied with TradeStation. And right here on the right-hand side, I see the value of the ATR as $3.98 or 3.98. I'm just saying $3.98 because that's exactly what it's representing. A lot of times you use other indicators that are not dollar-based, but here the average true range is actually averaging dollars because Apple is being quoted in dollars. So what is the ATR actually telling us with 3.98 on a daily time frame? It's just telling us that Apple moves an average of $3.98, or at least it has moved an average of $3.98 in the past 14 days. So that's kind of the idea here. Use that value as a measure of volatility. How volatile, has Apple been recently compared to other times in history? If you look at the different spikes here that we have on the ATR, Apple has been close to the 6.5 right here back in the 15th of November, mid-November. The average true range was $6.28. That's almost double the amount, close to double. But over here, back here in May of this year, the average true range was $6.69. By the way, if you're interested in the actual value or the historical value of any study, you can find that out by clicking on the background. And this provides you what's called the data tips window. And if you put it right here on if you put the vertical axis on the peak, it tells you what the ATR value is inside of that box. You can see the numbers right there in yellow, 6.69. All right. So, and Roman, great use of the ATR. In some of my presentations, I've also used ATR as a way of calculating stops on targets, because that gives you, an indication on how far, what is the potential movement of a security. And you can see that historically, that's going to change. Right now, based on the last 14 days, it's been like $3.98, not as much as it's been in the past, but not as low either. Right here, back in August, the end of August, the ATR dropped to $2.88. So there wasn't that much movement on the prior 14 days. One thing to keep in mind, though, even though you're getting a measure here of how much a particular symbol is moving, there's no sense of direction. ATR is just looking at the high and the low of every single bar, because that's what the range is. And it's creating an average so that you can see what is the movement that's been happening in the past 14 days, but there's no sense of direction. It doesn't tell you if the movement has been upward or the movement has been downward, or if the movement has been sideways, because it could be moving a lot, but if you look at the candlesticks, there may be just sideways movement. Yeah, it's very volatile, but it's not really going anywhere. We have these big price swings going up one day, and then the same intensity going down the next day, and then the same intensity going up again. So you have these ups and downs that is not taking the security anywhere, specifically up or down, just moving sideways, but it's moving a lot up and down. So in a sense, when you're looking at ATR, you probably need other studies that give you a sense of direction. There's a lot of traders out there that use a combination of ATR and ADX. ATR being the one that gives you how much movement there is, and ADX giving you a sense of if the market is moving in a certain direction or not, or at least if there is any movement. Towards the end of the presentation, we may combine the two to see if we get any indication of stocks that are moving in a certain direction and have probably a good potential of moving. But let's go ahead and talk about ATR a little bit more, because we have this stock, which is Apple, and we have an ATR of 3.98. I'm going to switch over here to a different screen where I have two different charts. Right here on the left-hand side, I haven't done any, research on these specific stocks. In fact, the way that I picked them was I put them all inside of a radar screen. These two symbols that you have right here are part of the NASDAQ 100, so they make up the index, along with other, 98 symbols. But I picked two of them. And here on the left-hand side, I have Cintas Corp. You may be familiar with the company and what it does. Not really sure what the main focus of their business is, but I picked it. Cintas, the symbol is CTAS. And right here on the right-hand side, I have CRWD, which is CrowdStrike Holdings Incorporated, also a company that I'm not really familiar with. I did not do any research on, what's been happening to the company recently. We can do that if we're interested in, putting in some trades. But for now, all that I'm interested in is movement. So here on the left-hand side, I'm going to do what I did with Apple. I'm going to add the average true range. So add study. All right. And we come over here. This is the built-in study, by the way. This is not something custom. We're going to customize the idea a little bit later. But for now, let's go ahead and focus on the value itself. All right. I'm using default parameters too. I'm not changing the inputs. I'm keeping it at 14. So the value that you see here is the 14-day average of the true range. And over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to do the same thing. Add study, average true range, and there it is. All right, perfect. So you kind of tell or can tell why I picked these two symbols. The reason for it is because they have exactly the same ATR value. If you look at the two, the 740, actually, it was exactly the same just a moment ago, and it changed. It updated just now. And I think because CTAS or Cintas is having a little bit of a drop in price today, a little bit more significant than what's happening on CrowdStrike. But you can see that the ATR values are very close to each other. $7.40 for Cintas, $7.38 for CrowdStrike. So we have a difference of 2 pennies only. So you can say that they have about the same dollar movement, $7.40. Let's round it up, right? So yeah, that's pretty cool to know, right? They both move about the same amount of dollars. However, what does that translate to? What does that really represent for a trader that is wanting to put in a trade with the most potential of price movement? I know they're both going to move, about the same amount based on the average, but going forward, which one is the best investment? Which one gives you the best value for its money? Cintas, if you look over here on the left-hand side, is priced at $453.98. Whereas if you look at CrowdStrike, it is priced at $114.65. So there's a drastic difference between the two prices. So even though they're both moving about the same amount of points in the last 14 days, that pointage movement is completely different when you take into account the price of the stock, because $7 on a $450 stock, it's something that can happen very easily. Percentage wise, if you think about $7, what percentage of that? What percentage of the $450 is that? The same thing here on CrowdStrike. When you think about the $7 and you think about the price of CrowdStrike, then there's a sense of how much does the price have to change in order for you to move $7. And I'm thinking here about percentage. So the idea is that so that we can think about the percentage of price movement, because that's a clear indication of how much your portfolio is going to move in either direction, because it moves in percentage basis. That's going to be more important to your performance than just the straight dollar value. And if we think about this a moment, and then sometimes I bring up a notepad and I say, okay, let's suppose that we are going to invest. And I say, let's just round up our investment to 100 shares. Let's say that we're going to invest 100 shares on each one of these stocks. For Cintas, CTAS, and we said that is worth $450. I'm gonna round up or round the price up. And let me just do the exact price here because I have access to it. $453 times 100 shares equals what? An investment of about $45,300, right? For CrowdStrike, the stock is trading at $114. If we multiply that by 100 shares, this is an investment of $11,400. So you can see which one is the smaller investment. In this case, it would be CrowdStrike. On Cintas, you would have to invest close to 4 times the amount in order to get the same movement. Let's say that in our trades, we're able to capitalize that $7 movement, or to be more exact, $7.40. Let's suppose that based on the ATR, we know that both stocks move about $7.40. And let's say that we are profitable in both trades. So for CTAS, 100 shares times the $7.40 gives you a profit of $740. For CRWD, CrowdStrike, it's exactly the same thing because they both move the same amount in average. So if let's suppose that going forward, it has the same amount of movement, you're going to make $740. Return on initial investment, though, is going to be completely different. Both trades, of course, give you $740. So the net dollar value is the same. However, if you think about the value of investment, what is your return on that initial investment? Well, let me bring up a calculator here. If I take those $740 and I divide them by the 45,300 and multiply it by 100 to get a percentage, we have that 1.63. That is for Synthes, 1.63%. Uh-oh, that's not an exclamation. That's supposed to be a 1. For CrowdStrike, it's going to be a little bit different, right? So let's go ahead and clear this out. And we're going to do the $740. And this time we're going to divide them by the initial investment of 11,400. And then we multiply that by 100. This is our 6.49. 6.49%. So now if we think about the initial investment and what the return is, you can see that the better trade would be CrowdStrike, because now we're thinking about percentage. We don't have to invest as much capital to have the same return. So that's the idea, that we think of the ATR as a percentage basis so that we can understand, which one of the stocks have the most potential. In this case, they both are moving in the same amount, but think about what that entails. How much money would you have to invest and how much money you have to put at risk in order to have the same amount of return. Let me bring over here my trade station and try to change the way that we look at ATR by also taking into account, okay, how much is the security worth? And is that movement really worth my investment? These two stocks that we said at the very beginning, they both move the same pointage movement. But when you take into account the price of the stock, then you say, oh, it seems like CrowdStrike may be the better trade because I don't have to invest as much money. And that's the key right here. So let me go ahead and insert a custom indicator. And this is where I'm going to introduce a formula that you can use on your own trade station. There's nothing to download here. I'm going to give you the formula and you can put it right here on your trade stations. I'm going to go here to studies, and everybody has that or has this on their platforms. Add study, and I'm going to scroll until I find a study called custom one line. I'm going to check the box here for prompt for editing because custom one line already has a built-in formula, and it's going to provide me a calculation which I'm going to have to change. So rather than adding it and then going back and editing it, right here from within this dialog that I'm inserting it, I can check the box that says prompt for editing. So it takes me to the dialog before it puts it on the screen. Okay, so here's the screen. I'm going to go to the inputs, and here's where we put in the formula. And the formula is going to be, first of all, the calculation of the ATR, and then taking that ATR value and dividing it by the price of the stock and multiplying by 100 so that we can get a percentage sort of value, right? So this, for somebody that is not really knowledgeable in easy language, it may be a little bit challenging to know exactly what to put in here for the calculation of ATR. However, from within this dialog, which is the customized indicator dialog, you have access to the dictionary. Now, this dictionary that is here links you to the easy language dictionary. Let me show you. All right, so this other dialog comes on, and you can see on the title bar, it says Easy Language Dictionary. So without having to go to the development environment and without having to open up Easy Language, you can just click on Dictionary from the customized indicator dialog to take a look at a few things that you can put inside of these parameters. So under category, there's two things. There's strategies to include. Not sure how this, I've never done this side before. Something that I need to look into. But the one that I wanted to point out is this one, user functions, because it does tell you all the different calculations that you can add. And if you scroll down, these are all in alphabetical order. You're going to see that average true range, or AVG True Range, is one of the functions in here. So I'm clicking on it to highlight it, because over here it gives you information on that function. Right here, the notes, it says returns the average true range over length bars. It gives you an example on how the function is used. You can see that it just says AVG True Range, and in parentheses, you supply the number of bars to use in the ATR calculation. So that's all that I need. I only need one parameter, which is the length of how many bars I'm going to be using. But this is the actual function name that I need to use, AVG True Range. So let me go ahead and I can click OK here. But then, I get some sort of an error here, but it's okay. I'm going to click OK. And notice that it brings up AVG True Range automatically instead of the formula. Now, if I know this from the top of my head, let's say, for example, that I didn't have access to, or I didn't want to go to the dictionary because I knew what to type in here directly. I didn't have to. So you don't have to go to the dictionary, is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to go to the dictionary if you already know what is it that you want to use. Now, average true range is a function, so I can type it in, AVG True Range. By the way, easy language is not case sensitive. So you can see that AVG, I capitalized it, and I also capitalized the word true, and I capitalized the word range. But it doesn't really matter for easy language. I do that just because of visibility. But if I really wanted to, I could have just avoided all the capital letters, AVG True Range. And that's the way that it looks. Of course, looking at it, I say, well, that's a weird word because it has no capital. So visually, adding the capitals allows you to read it better, but it's not necessary. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up parentheses and I'm going to provide the number of bars that are being used in the calculation. We know that the ATR, or the one that we were using, uses a default of 14 bar. You see it right here in the background. If you look at the status line, you can see that it's using 14. So inside parentheses, I'm going to type in a 14. And if I want to leave it at this, I could. I'm going to leave it at this for now so you can see what it looks like right here on the screen. I'm going to change the style just so that it's a little bit thicker. And the color, I want to use a different color. Let's use cyan so that it stands out more. I'm going to click OK. And here it is. Notice that we changed the parameter and the line looks exactly like the default ATR indicator. In fact, if you look at the value, it's exactly the same, 7.46. Interesting that the ATR has changed. Just a moment ago, it was 7.40. So there's something happening here on Cintas that is not happening here for CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike still stuck at 7.38. So you can see how the ATR has changed, probably because the price has been dropping significantly since we started the presentation, and it has affected the value of the ATR. But to the point that I was making, you can use a custom one line, use the same function, AVG True Range, and get the exact same value. But I want to modify this further. So let me go ahead and double click on the line that I just added here, because I want to continue adding to my calculation. And one of the things that we said we wanted to add is reference the value of the symbol or the security. So I'm going to add a / because that's division in mathematical operators, just a / and I'm going to divide the value of the average true range by the close. Using the word close in easy language references the closing price of the security, which is pretty cool because this closing price updates in real time. So you'll have a real-time calculation of the ATR. Now that I've divided the movement by the price of the security, I'm going to multiply that whole expression or that whole result by 100 so that I can get a more clear view of the percentage. I don't have to, I don't have to multiply by 100, but I like to do it because I get these very easy to read percentage values. Otherwise, you get the 0.01, which if you're okay with that, you can use it. But I like to use, multiplication by 100. So I'm going to put all this inside parentheses. I'm going to use the asterisk, which is the multiplication operator, and I'm going to do 100. That's it. Let me go ahead and copy this formula. I'm going to put it right here in the chat so that everyone has it. It's just a custom formula that you can put into any parameter. This is a custom one-line indicator that everyone has. All you need to do is put in the formula inside of right here, the inputs tab, and it gives you this calculation. I'm going to click OK. And here we go. Notice how the value changed from the 7.46 that we were seeing before to 1.65. What does that mean? What does that 1.65 mean? It means that the 7.46 ATR is 1.65% of the value of the security. So in average, what it's saying in the past 14 days, Cintas has moved 1.65% in average. I'm going to do this exact same calculation for CrowdStrike. So let me go ahead and, I already copied the formula. So what I'm going to do here on this chart on the right-hand side is go to Add Study one more time, select Custom One Line, and I'm going to paste the formula in here. Exactly the same formula we used before. I'm just pasting it here into a new Custom One Line. Let me go ahead and go to the style, change the thickness and the color. I want to make it the same color and then click OK. Here we go. So exactly the same calculation, but notice the difference. The $7.38 ATR for CrowdStrike is 6.39% of the value of the stock. So if you had to make a decision as to which one to trade, you know that this provides a better solution because you get a better return on your money. You get exactly the same return, but not if you take into account the initial investment. So let's go ahead and take a look at this because this is pretty cool. And now we have a way of comparing stocks ATR across the board. Because comparing the ATR values on these two symbols, yeah, I was able to compare them. And I said at the very beginning, this looked very similar, very close to each other. But now by standardizing the ATR value using the value of the stock, I'm able to say, well, the ATR movement for CrowdStrike is significantly higher than the one for Cintas. Why? Because now I'm reading it as a percentage. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this, for example, in radar screen. So I'm going to go here to this other workspace. Now, let me open up a new one. Let me go here to radar screen. Okay, everybody should have radar screen on your machines. Let's suppose that I'm going to add a list of symbols here, and I'm going to do the NASDAQ 100. Okay, here we go. Let's change the interval. The interval right here is 5 minutes. But if I'm looking at ATR and I've already started doing some daily analysis, I'm going to change the symbols here to daily so that I can have or follow the same line of thinking. So I'm going to highlight the symbols, change the time frame to daily. I'm going to remove the top row symbol, is $NDX.X, because that's the symbol of the actual index. I'm just interested in the components. So here we are. I'm going to add, first of all, let's go ahead and add here average true range. average daily range, average true range. Okay. And then move it down all the way to the right-hand side. All right, so that's my average true range. Let me gonna remove some columns here because I'm gonna need some space. Because in addition to the average true range, let's go ahead and add the custom one line. Can also be added to a radar screen window, which is pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to click OK, but I know that the calculated value here is not the one that I'm looking for. What is it? So I'm going to right click on the column header, studies, and then I'm going to edit custom one line for all symbols. And you can see that in the formula, the values that you're seeing right here is the close minus the close of 10 bars ago. So this is the difference in price between what's happening today or right now with what happened 10 days ago. And for example, right here for Apple, we see a negative $3.12. That means that Apple is trading $3 lower than what it was trading 10 days ago. So this is a straight, kind of a momentum idea. Not what I want. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to change the formula to the same formula that I supplied here in the chat so that I can get the calculation as a percentage. I'm going to click OK. So now I see percentages here. So take a look. If I sort by the ATR, I get the lowest ATR value at the very top. And if I double click again, it sorts in descending orders. I get the highest ATR value right at the top. Now, this one at the very top is booking holdings. You can see that the price of the stock is $2,036. That's a very pricey stock. But if you look at the ATR, I mean, it moves $52 in average. But look at the custom one line indicator. That's only 2.58% of the price of the stock. If you look at row number 2, we have another one here that's closer to the 5% movement. That one is Mercado Libre, MELI, because it's a much cheaper stock with a movement that's close to the one for booking holdings. So now you get the idea. Rather than sorting by the actual point movement, ATR, I can sort by the percentage and see which one is the one that moves the most based or relative to the price of the security. So DocuSign is at the very top, moving close to 7% average in the last 14 days. That's some significant movement. Now, of course, from here, we're unable to tell if that movement is upward or downward or sideways, because remember that ATR, if you're using it as an average of volatility, is just, how big of price swings there are. But the price swings can be, up, down, back to back, not giving you any sense of direction. So yes, this is telling you that there's a significant price movement, but not in any particular direction. It may be, heading in one direction, but it's not until we use other utilities that we're able to determine if this is an uptrend, a downtrend, or a sideways movement. Roman is asking, is it possible to rename this indicator when I finish customization? Unfortunately, this indicator cannot be renamed. But if you do like to have this as an actual indicator that exists in your list, it would have to be created from scratch. So yes, you can do it. And you would have to use exactly the same formula that I used, but you would have to add a plot statement. Maybe we can do that, next. I'll show you how you can do it quickly and create it quickly using easy language. And that way it'll stay with the name. But this one is called custom one line, and it'll stay as custom one line if we don't create it from scratch. So now let's go ahead and what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize this and bring up, I'm going to go here to this workspace. This workspace. I'm going to right click here, copy the window, come back to my radar screen, right click, paste window. All right, so I'm going to put this window on the right-hand side. I like copying and pasting window because it copies the studies that you have in there. So if you want to create like a duplicate of the chart window, just right click on it, copy the window, and then go to the workspace where you want to have it, right click and paste the window. It just creates a very nice duplicate of that same chart. And in here, I'm going to link the two windows together because I want to take a look at DocuSign. So I'm going to click here, DocuSign, and let me open up the chart a little bit. So we can see the 2.86 ATR and the 6.92 percentage. You can see that in the last 14 days, there's been a significant, drop in price in DocuSign. Of course, if you look at, a few days ago, there wasn't a sense of direction, but if you count the number of bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So the ATR is counting from this bar all the way down to this bar. So there is a kind of a drop in price from that first, bar included in the ATR. So let's take a look at this a little bit more extensively because, and I know that I'm running out of time. So there's a couple of things that I want to show you and leave you so you can start thinking about this. If this is something that we find interesting and we say, are there stocks out there that have a significantly higher percentage of price movement? In the NASDAQ 100, the one that has moved the most is it's close to 7%. Are there other securities that probably have a higher percentage and have these drastic price swings that I can take advantage of? Well, what we did here, we started off with the NASDAQ 100, and you can apply this type of calculation on any list of studies that you may have. But if you want to scan the universe of symbols, you can also do that. Let me come over here, and before I even use it in the scanner, I'm going to show you how to create this into a custom study, that one that exists inside of your collection of studies. I'm going to come here to apps, and I'm going to click on easy language. I'm going to keep it simple so that we don't overcomplicate the presentation, but I'm going to go here to File, New, and create an indicator. Okay, I'm going to call this !JN. Indicators that you create yourself, get into a habit of having a prefix, whatever it is. I use an exclamation because that sorts to the very top. JN are my initials. That way, if you always use a prefix, all your custom indicators are grouped together. So over here, I'm going to call this ATR %. And I'm just going to click OK. ATR %. So what I do first is I copy or paste the formula that we've been talking about. And I copied and I pasted right there into the chat. But I'm going to add some other things because easy language, when you create an indicator from scratch, you have to add some other let's go elements. Like right here, this is what's called a variable. So value 1 is going to store that variable. You also need a semicolon at the very end, just to tell easy language that you've completed that statement. And now it's just a matter of plotting value 1 and also adding a semicolon. So first you assign the calculation to a variable and then you plot the variable. Not so difficult, right? Let me go ahead and verify this. That's all you need to do. Let me copy this and put it right here in the chat so that you have access to it. Those are the 2 lines you need. I can, work on the styling of this a little bit. So right click and I can go to properties. And on the chart style, I can make it, the line thicker. And on the chart color, I can make it a different color if I want to, like this bright cyan. Then click OK and then verify again. But those styling properties are optional, But now if I go over here to my trade station, Let me put it right here on one of these charts to see if it's exactly the same. I'm going to go to studies, add studies. We said that that would sort to the very top. So let's go and look for exclamation JN ATR percent. Here we go. ATR percent. I'm going to click OK. And OK. And there it is, ATR percent, and has exact same mathematical percentage. So it does work very nicely. And now if you add it here to your radar screen, let me remove this one. Click on plus. And now let's add the one that I created. So that way you have that label at the very top, exclamation JN ATR percent. And now it has the label you want, ATR percent. And now there's a clear indication of what the value is. And I can see the problem, because if you're using the custom one line, it's not, I mean, you lose track of what the mathematical formula is here. So let's go over here to this other workspace, because I want to show you how to scan the universe for these types of opportunities. I'm going to come to the scanner. Where's the scanner? Here it is, scanner. All right. Let's create a new one. So I'm going to click on add. This will be ATR percent is the name of this scan. Okay, and I'm going to do all stocks, no exclusions. Right here, I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to do a price filter. A price filter because there may be some stocks that I may not be interested in. Like, for example, in the operator, I'm going to say between. I want to trade stocks that are worth between $5 and maybe $500. Nothing more than that, you know? Maybe over here on the second row, I can do a volume filter. So here, the volume AVG for 10 days. I want that to be greater than 1 million. Just because I want some liquidity. I want the stocks to have traded and have some volume in them. 1 million shares traded in average. Before I do the scan on the ATR, let me see how many symbols remain. I'm going to click on finish and then run. This runs the scan, and in the log, I'm able to see how many symbols remain. So the universe has close to 12,000 symbols. You can see the total number on that first row, 11,989. And after I applied the price filter and the volume filter, 1,000 symbols remain. Pretty impressive, right? That by looking at volume and price, I'm able to eliminate so many symbols. But that's the reason why I sometimes run the scan before I add all the filters to see what impact a particular filter has on the scan. So I'm okay with 1,000 symbols. Let's go ahead and run the scan on those 1,000 symbols. What I'm going to do is click on customize and add my third filter, which is going to be the custom indicator that I created. I'm going to click on indicator, exclamation JN, ATR percent. I'm going to click OK. There we go. And this only has a plot statement. I'm not really sure how high the percentage is going to get, but it can get, pretty high. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to select, give me the top 50 symbols. So if you use an operator like top number, this will look for the ATR percent value of the 1,000 symbols and then give you the top 50. I'm going to run this and see what I get. While this calculates, you can see that it's going to take up some time because it's got to run the ATR calculation in each one of those 1,000 symbols. And it's doing that right now. So let's give it some time. I'm going to take some questions as this completes, and if there's any questions about this content. Hey, Phil, how you doing? No, there's no download today. There wasn't a download link today. My PowerPoint just had the title of the presentation and just the disclosure slide. So thank you for being here, Phil. I should have probably reduced the number of symbols a little bit more, but it's okay. This is going pretty fast. The code should be recorded, but I'm going to put it right here on the screen one more time. So that was the code that I used in the indicator. 2 lines of code. This is you can create a new indicator, type up those 2 lines, and it creates the indicator for you. And that's the one that I'm using right now on the scanner. Anybody else has any questions? The recording of this presentation, it's funny that you asked that, because last week we had a similar question. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but we are in sort of a transition phase where we're trying to move everything we're doing here over to the TradeStation website. Of course, there's the event is being recorded. And if you guys have, if you'd like to have the recording of this presentation, please send me an email. Sometimes I have Manolo here with me, and he shares another email. I think it's university@tradestation.com. But if you'd like to have a recording of this presentation, let me share my email address here with you so that you can reach out and I can share that link with you. Once we move over to TradeStation, we'll have a better way to provide these archives. I think we're going to be doing it on the website itself. But if that doesn't work, then we'll probably rely on the TradeStation YouTube channel. But for now, these recordings don't have a place to be on. So we're trying to work that out, but it is being recorded, okay? Okay, this is already at 60%. Any other questions? Phil, that's a good question too. So there are a lot of archives that are on You Can Trade. And what we're thinking about doing is creating some playlists that exist on Vimeo so that we can share these with you, and that way nobody loses access to the archives. So that's something that we're working on as well, because I know that there's a lot of valuable content on the archives. I know that a lot of the topics that we've covered already inside of the masterclass are probably going to be redone. And if you've been with You Can Trade for a while, you know that we rotate the topics and repeat them. So eventually we're going to do the topic again on TradeStation and have an official recording for it. Yes, it's always fun, and once we move over to TradeStation, we'll continue to have fun, with these custom ideas. Steve, if you only want to be notified if an ATR exceeds, let's say, a $4 amount, yes, you can probably use the same. Well, you say the word notified. So I suppose you want some sort of an alert. So you can come here to radar screen. Like, for example, right here, ATR is already built in. Let me see what the alert criteria is here. So I'm going to open up the easy language of the average true range indicator. So you can look at the alert criteria here. Let me go back here to easy language. If you're looking at the ATR indicator, if you turn on the alert is triggered if the highest bar equals 0, meaning that it's the current bar. This is looking for the highest ATR value for a particular length. So it's not really looking for specific target value like you're asking, but it's looking for the highest ATR value. But if you're looking for something specific, this alert can be modified. It would have to be modified because you would have to say something like, if the ATR is greater than such and such, then give me an alert. Like, for example, if I come over here to my custom indicator, I can say if value 1 is greater than You can either hard code it like 4, then alert. This is an easy way for you to create an alert in this custom indicator that provides you an alert anytime there's a symbol that has an ATR greater than 4. So that's something you can do. It seems like the default alert criteria of the ATR doesn't do this precisely, but it's definitely something that we can customize. All right, let's go ahead and check our scan. All right, take a look. So now from the almost 12,000 symbols, how many symbols remain? 50. Why? Because we told the scanner to give us only 50. And if I go here to the results, these are the 50 symbols. You can see that it gives you the closing price because that's the first filter. It also gives you the volume and it gives you the ATR. If we double click on ATR, goes in ascending order. Notice that the least amount here is 8%. But if we double click again, notice this right here. 127% of the price of the stock. This one in particular, GRND. Not sure what this stock does. But let me go ahead and do this. I'm gonna resize this, go back here, right click on this window. Right click, copy window, go back in here, right click, paste window. Resize this, link it, and let's click on GRND, Grinder Incorporated, and you can see the value here. You can see that in the 14 days. I mean, there was I'm not sure, what the life story of this company is. You can see that historically, the price has not moved that much. But on this day, which is November 18th, we had a drastic upswing higher than $70, then a huge drop down to $6. So that's why, the ATR right here is out of whack. The percentage right here that's being calculated. By the way, the percentage calculated over here in charting is always going to be a little bit different than the one in the scanner, because the scanner does not use the current bar because the current bar hasn't closed yet. And the scanner only uses closed bars. So that's why there's a slight difference between the two calculations here. This is a real-time calculation, and you can see that the movement in price is 130% of the actual current price. And it makes sense because of what happened, a few days ago on this particular symbol. If I look at the next one down, because I would say that this one right here, Grinder, it seems like it's an anomaly or something that, it's really doesn't interest me because of the way that it moved on prior days. The one after that on row number 2 is NOTV. This is Innovative Incorporated. And you can see there's more, normal movement in the security, except for this big bar on the 17th. We had a huge drop from $15 to $6. What happened to this security? I'm not really sure, but this type of movement, it's going to skew the ATR value significantly because this doesn't happen every single day, but is being accounted for in the calculation of the security. So this 26% average movement is all skewed because of this little bar right here, this big bar right here, not a little bar. So let's SFR, similar, behavior than what we saw on the number 1. Same here, So a lot of times, you're going to get a lot of that behavior where there's 1 or 2 bars that is going to skew that percentage. For example, here, this company, Silvergate Cap Corp. This is like the first one where I see a normal price fluctuation and still has a high, ATR percentage with almost 14% of the price in the average movement. So interesting that we can do that and start looking at, securities, or start looking at symbols that probably we hadn't thought about. So it's a great way for you to look for opportunities. So that's it, guys and gals. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is our masterclass. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone next Tuesday for our next masterclass topic. Tomorrow is a Wednesday, so we do getting started classes. Not really sure what the class is about tomorrow, But these are just basic introductory classes that we do on Wednesdays on our trading platforms. And on Thursday, remember that we have David Russell at 11 a.m. So make sure you don't miss his presentation. You can register for his market insights right here on the events page on You Can Trade. Eventually, the events page is going to move over to TradeStation. So I'm just saying that so that you can start thinking about where to go to find those events. And we're going to send out a notification via email so that everyone is notified when the change happens, so that you don't miss any of our presentations. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful afternoon. And thank you for your support of the masterclass. Goodbye, everyone.